Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namassami. My wire's a little short. This is what we call dukkha. I want a longer wire and I don't have one. And the one I have is unsatisfactory. I'm always happy to talk about the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, which I do very often. And I think I have made a video previously just about that, but having given it a spurious title, I was unable to find it when asked. So I'll just talk about the Noble Eightfold Path again, because it's good to talk about the Noble Eightfold Path. After all, it is not basic Buddhism, it is Buddhism. Well, it is our practice of Buddhism. You see, Buddhism is not theoretical, it's not a philosophy. It is a practice, a way of life, the way to freedom from suffering within this very lifetime. And we're so lucky that in this religion, if you call it that, the teacher, the Buddha, left us instructions, simple, step-by-step instructions to this end, freedom from suffering. His teachings were simple. There is suffering and an end of suffering. This is then elaborated on. There is suffering, there is a cause of suffering, an end of suffering, and a path leading to the end of suffering. And that is what we call these Four Noble Truths. They are the heart, the core, the main body of the Buddha's teachings. And if we understand through knowing experientially and fully have taken on board, accepting this truth, these truths, then we are very much on the way to becoming free from that very suffering these truths speak about. And the fourth of these Four Noble Truths, the path leading to the end of suffering, is the Noble Eightfold Path. And as you will see, it kind of goes in a circle. Often I refer to three categories of the practice: Sila, which is keeping moral virtue, or the 5 precepts; Samadhi, which is meditation; Panya, which is wisdom, or the development of wholesome mind states and the reduction of unwholesome mind states. This sums up the 8 points of the Noble Eightfold Path in just 3 categories. So whenever Sila, Samadhi, Panya is referred to, it in turn is referring to these 8 steps. So it is always there in the teachings. It is our practice. So let's go through this Noble Eightfold Path and examine how we can use it in everyday life. Before I first left the monastery to go on Tudong alone, I was asked, what will I do if I need instruction, if I need help, if I'm not sure how to get on with something? And I said, well, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll phone here or look something up. And of course, the question came, what if you're unable to do this? Well, you know, what will be, I think I said, or something like this. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Everything's impermanent, suffering, out of my control. And this monk, one of my teachers, said, if you follow the Noble Eightfold Path in everything you do, in all your actions of body, speech and mind, and take into consideration this Noble Eightfold Path with all you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and what you're thinking, you can't go wrong. And I took that with me, that knowledge, and it works. Now, I've been a monk for 3 years and lived like this, so I've taken this Noble Eightfold Path literally and developed it as best I can in my own practice, having renounced all worldly life, possessions, friends and family, even the country I was living in, to this end, to become free from suffering, liberation. The Noble Eightfold Path begins with right view. Number 1, right view. Let me just run through them quickly. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration or meditation. 8. They are all equally important, but are kind of in priority order. But as you see, if one applies that notion, right meditation or concentration is number 8. Now that doesn't mean it's the least important. What it means is right samadhi is what the actual 8th point of the Noble Eightfold Path is reliant fully on the former 7 points. If you're not keeping sila, so you're not keeping the precepts, if you're not leading a life of moral virtue, and if you're not developing wholesome mind states and reducing unwholesome mind states, by that I mean one could choose to educate oneself about the Dharma, read suttas, or one could watch a film of blood and gore and guts and killing and stealing and all of this kind of stuff. That's rather extreme. But one is developing wholesome mind states, one is developing unwholesome mind states. You can bring that into more subtle examples. You could still watch movies, but there are movies which will help you develop wholesome mind states, and there are movies that will help you develop unwholesome mind states. So it doesn't have to be that extreme. Without this, sila and panya, moral virtue and wisdom, you cannot be expected to have a mind that will remain calm, or that will calm, a mind that will abide in peace, in serenity, because it's going to be concerned about your actions. Maybe your immoral actions of body, speech and mind. Maybe you've got away with something, or maybe you haven't. Whatever it is, it will be there. Now, if all you've done is good or neutral karma, karma just means action, things, then this won't affect your ability to develop samadhi. And samadhi is deep, absorbed states of mind in meditation, where you will be at peace and experience both physical rapture and mental joy. So, right view. It is understanding, knowing those Four Noble Truths. It is also appreciating the nature of existence, the three characteristics of existence, which are that all things are impermanent. Even this universe, but especially looking at our own physical bodies, which will age, get sick and die. We're of the nature to age, get sick and die, and all things we love, we will be parted from, because these are the characteristics of existence, being that makes all things unsatisfactory ultimately. So even the things we enjoy most and love most, we will be parted from or no longer be able to enjoy. So therefore unsatisfactoriness is there, and this we call dukkha, anicca, dukkha, anatta, which means not self. And not self can be really viewed as not being within our control. But anatta really translates in terms of not self as this personality that we view as ourselves, this person, is only as a result of causes and conditions that this physical body and this thinking mind is experiencing or has been subjected to. And it has become or is becoming that. That is impermanent too. But what knows that is not impermanent, and that is your citta, this which knows. So, right view. It's this, the Four Noble Truths. Everything is, we are subject to suffering, the cause of suffering, there is an end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering. So number one begins with the path leading to the end of suffering as your view, knowing this view. And right intention is number two. Right intention. This is mostly attributed and important to number one, right view, comes under wisdom, panya, wisdom, panya. Number two then goes into sila, moral virtue, sila, which is right intention. For example, we're walking along the path and we tread on an ant and it dies. We killed, but we didn't break the first precept because it was not our intention. If we walk along the path and we deliberately step on an ant, it was our intention. So we try, through the practice of mindfulness, which is coming later, so I won't go into that too much, to not do any harm with sila. In fact, the 5 precepts, sila, can be summed up as doing no harm to oneself or to others. And as long as our intention is that, to do no harm, then our intention is good. And our intention is also therefore towards developing wholesome mind states. and reducing unwholesome mind states through our good actions of body, speech and mind. And this is in turn also helping to develop right view, wisdom. So this is right intention. And the third is right speech. Let me just run through the 5 precepts, Sila, because these are all also cross-referenced with those 5 precepts, which are just quickly no killing, no stealing, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no taking of intoxicants. This is for lay people living outside of the monastery. If you come to live inside the monastery, you would take 8 precepts if you were just staying for 24 hours or a weekend. Then number 3 becomes no sexual activity whatsoever. Number 6 is you will not eat any food in the afternoon, so after 12 o'clock. Number 7 is no entertainment, perfume or jewellery. And number 8 is you don't sleep in a high or luxurious bed. So the main difference is the eating thing there, and the no entertainment whatsoever, and you dress plainly and simply. Then as we go through monastic life, we take on further precepts. 10 as an anagarika, someone getting ready, living in the monastery. They then split number 7 into 2, no entertainment, and the beautification, perfume and jewellery is made a separate one. And that gives us 9, and then number 10 is they're not allowed to handle money either. We give up money. Monks are not allowed money. If money is donated to a monk via some means, I think it doesn't really happen to me, but it happens in monasteries where they give envelopes and such like. This goes to the monastery, of course, to be looked after by whoever looks after the accounts and money and things there to run all these places. But we don't need to handle money because our robes are given to us, our shelter is provided, food every day, and medicines when they are necessary. So where am I? Right view, right intention. So there we go, right intention. Such a beautiful day here. My mind wandered. Let's get on with number 3. Yes, right speech. Oh, I see. Yes, I just mentioned about the precepts. Yes, so right intention is all about precepts. And then number 3 is right speech. And that's why I brought up the precepts. Because right speech does cover one of the precepts, which is no lying. But this is very specific in the precept, the 4th precept, no lying. But actually right speech covers a lot more. It's harmful speech, which includes lying, but any hurtful speech, any gossip, malicious gossip, any divisive speech. One can even expand it further into unnecessary speech if you're a monastic. If you're a lay person, it's okay. You're going to talk about the weather, the sports, the television you watched last night, the restaurant that's opening down the road. If you're a monk, however, this shouldn't really be part of your day. We don't all congregate in the Nampana shed, this is where we get our afternoon drink, and have a general chat about life. This isn't the done thing. Why? It's not because it's immoral, and this is why it's not part of the precepts. Why? Because it's not the practice for monks. For lay people, that's okay. Like for lay people, we have 5 precepts, and for monks we have 8, 10, or 227 in the case of a bhikkhu, 311 in the case of a bhikkhuni. That's a nun, a female monk. And I think that really is all I need to say. You don't need to be you just need, I think we all know when we're speaking, when speech, you see these Noble Eightfold Path points are right this, right that, the right view, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right, and so on. Right. That doesn't mean there's a wrong morally. It just means that the right way to follow the path to get to the goal of freedom from suffering. It doesn't mean that if you talk about, just casually talk about some gossip, for instance, you're not really breaking any serious moral laws. And it's not going to do you a great deal of harm if there's some truth in it. But if you really want to attain to freedom from suffering in this lifetime, then you have to do everything right. So it's a very simple but very specific instruction, step-by-step instruction. So number 3, right speech. And number 4 is right livelihood. There are some prohibited livelihoods: selling of alcohol and intoxicants, working in a place that kills animals, working at a place that cuts up and distributes dead animals, that's like a butcher's, or the former would be an abattoir, making, creating, selling poisons and chemicals of that nature, and the same making, distributing, providing, selling of arms, guns, bullets, knives and things aimed for killing, doing harm. They're the specific exclusions, but generally speaking, again, one knows if you are keeping precepts, you know if your livelihood is right to livelihood. If you're breaking any of the precepts, those 5 precepts, then it's wrong in your job, then it's wrong livelihood. It's really that simple. Our livelihood, right livelihood as monks, is literally our livelihood going out every morning with our bowl to collect food, to live for another 24 hours. Or if we're in a country where that isn't something that is done, then people would bring food to the monastery. And we still go with our bowl to the kitchen or the sala and collect the food. And we sit and we eat just once. Sometimes they eat twice. That is our livelihood. Because that is all I need to live. That's what livelihood means, what you need to live. Right. Now this still comes under sila. So you see, number 1 is wisdom, right view. Number 2, right intention, is moral virtue, so sila. Number 3, right speech, is likewise moral virtue, sila. Don't say anything harmful or nasty or about someone behind their back. Number 4 is right livelihood, a moral job. If you're going out, your job is to go out killing things, even if it is for necessary food, I'm afraid it's not acceptable, because you will not be able to attain to samadhi if you've been killing things all day long. Our minds are not able to detach from our wrongdoings. There's a whole nother talk about that, really, on hiri and ottappa, which are our guardians in a way, what we should as monastics and as good Buddhists fear the most. They're not people, but they're often depicted as figures, as what would you call them? Like angels, I suppose. Hiri being the fear and dread of doing wrong, and ottappa being the kind of forgotten how to explain it because I wasn't going to talk about that, but fear, the very fear of breaking precepts. So for example, I when I thought I'd accidentally killed my frog with no intention, my fear was not that I'd lost my little friend, my fear was that I'd broken my sila. And even though I convinced myself I had not broken my sila because it was unintentional, I still had not followed the Noble Eightfold Path because I hadn't been as mindful as I should have been in order for him to accidentally go shooting down the toilet. But now that's happened twice and he's come back again. So I'm still practicing mindfulness to avoid it happening again, but he's fine and happy. But Hiryanotapa stepped in there, and they're there now, my guardian angels, protecting that frog from harm and protecting me from the harm of doing the worst thing I can do, which is breaking my sila. Right, where did I get to? Right livelihood. So the next, so that was sila, again, right livelihood. The next is right effort. And right effort kind of falls into two categories. It comes into the category of mind of sila, moral virtue, and also the category of meditation. This is why, because we apply it as right effort because we put in effort, extra effort, to ensure that we keep our 5 precepts. Now it may be that there's a shortcut to doing something that would save us time, save us money, but it isn't going to be, we're not going to be keeping all of our precepts. We may infringe upon one of them, even in a grey area. With a little extra effort, we can avoid that. And on the other hand, it applies to meditation because it is literally the effort to practice mindfulness, sati, and to practice samadhi, concentration, or sitting in meditation. So this is effort. Now we could be completely relaxed, laid back, and apply no effort. We may feel we have no energy and are unable to apply any additional effort. But as long as mentally we are applying effort to keep sila, and we are applying effort to remain mindful, this is sufficient, this is right effort. It isn't right effort in performing supernatural, unreasonable physical strength, achievements of endurance, no. It's about maintaining a constant awareness of sila, in terms of sila, and mindfulness in terms of meditation. This is right effort. And then right mindfulness comes next, and really just being totally aware of this Noble Eightfold Path and applying it to everything you do in your life is very much sati, very much mindfulness. But of course, when we're here as monks living in the forest, mindfulness is continuously brought to our attention. It's like a double form of mindfulness because we're in a forest, a jungle. It's a place where we're walking on paths which are mainly through just trees and roots, and we have to be very careful. And really mindfulness means being careful, attending to everything we do carefully, our mind on the job. But it also means experiencing everything for really what it is, without so much judgment, but with appreciation. Knowing when we're seeing, we are seeing what we're seeing. It is just that. Hearing is just sounds, just that. Smelling, you smell something nice, you smell something not nice, but it's just that. And this constant mindfulness is right mindfulness. Now this will be more present if, when we move on to number 8, right samadhi, right concentration, right meditation, if we are able to spend some time, and this is where effort comes in each day, maybe get up half an hour early or hour early, go to sleep half an hour later or an hour later, and practice meditation for 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day, even half an hour a day, 15 minutes a day. But sit and allow the body to settle so that it can, of its own accord, relax. And then when the mind is allowed to settle, it will become calm. Then you can bring your awareness to one single meditation object. The best is really the breath, breathing in, breathing out through your nose. Not concentration. This is why, although it's translated as right concentration, the 8th point of the Noble Eightfold Path, really it is right meditation, because right concentration implies straining and that wrong kind of effort, not right effort, let's say. There's no wrong effort, not right effort. What we're doing is we're allowing our mind to stay in focus on one thing, not straining, not trying. This just gives you a headache. Just allowing our minds to settle, become calm, and then remain focused, even for a very short while, on your meditation object. Now, if you practice this each and every day, the time you are able to stay with your meditation object will get longer and longer. And this is right samadhi that you are developing, the ability to keep your focus on one thing. And then, in everyday life, your mindfulness will be so much brighter. You hear of 2 kinds of meditation, vipassana and samadhi. Vipassana just means seeing clearly. Samadhi is this focused, single-pointed focus on one meditation object. By practicing this, when you're walking through the forest or walking through your city, your mindfulness will be so much brighter. In fact, when you first start to practice meditation, maybe it's not everyone's experience, but I know I had a much heightened sense of awareness. It was quite astonishing, really, and quite difficult at first to deal with because of some of the environments I was in, that I seemed to notice so much more sound, so much more light, so much of everything in more detail, more clearly, seeing more clearly, just by focusing on one thing for some time, at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, or whenever you can find the time. And we can always find the time at the beginning or the end of the day. If you encroach a little bit on your sleeping time, it's no problem, is it? So there's always time to meditate. But if you can't do that, you can always try to be mindful. Now, this practice of mindfulness throughout the day is also supporting this practice of samadhi meditation. Like 2 sides of the same coin, they go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. But really first we need to develop this sitting, practicing meditation, samadhi, to develop right mindfulness. So that is the 8 points of this Noble Eightfold Path. And in each and every day, we come across decisions we have to make, directions we have to go in. And we can ask ourselves, well, I'm not sure what to do. What does the Noble Eightfold Path tell me? And that is like asking yourself, what would the Buddha do? Like people ask themselves, what would Jesus do? But Jesus didn't quite give us a step-by-step list. There are things throughout the Bible, of course. In the New Testament, of course. But the Buddha gave us this concise list. So we don't have the Buddha to pray to, we don't have the Buddha to ask. But we can refer to these 8 points and say to ourselves, what would the Buddha do? Okay, where does it come on the list? Right view, right intention, right speech. Well, before I say this to this person, I should consider their feelings as well. And maybe not say this because it is going to harm someone, which will then in turn harm myself. It's as simple as that. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. And that is the Noble Eightfold Path. When we have practiced, or when we keep our precepts, when we keep Sila, we are then better able to practice Samadhi, meditate. And it is really through our meditation that we're not only developing this ability to see clearly, so vipassana for our everyday lives. We don't just sit to meditate in the evening or in the morning to experience joy and rapture or to become free from stress. We practice it, we do it to change our lives. To change our lives so that we don't cause ourselves stress in the first place. So that we don't need to sit and relax or have joy and rapture because we are always unstressed. We are always relaxed and we are always experiencing joy and rapture. And it is this practice, and only through this practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, summarized in Sila, Samadhi and Panya, that we can attain to that. And this is not an aloof, high level of attainment. This can be seen by each and every one of us. And it can be seen quite instantly. Simply keeping the 5 precepts will improve your life immediately, not to mention all of those around you and people you associate with, friends and family. And if you're already keeping the 5 precepts, then you're in such a strong position to just sit and practice meditation, where you will experience joy, you will experience rapture, and you will be able to take this with you throughout your day, remaining mindful, avoiding accidents, avoiding doing harm, little trips. Sometimes, as a result of this practice, you may find you do things a little bit more carefully, so a little bit more slowly. Not very slowly, like in slow motion, but a few extra steps to get from A to B may be necessary. But ultimately, this gets you to your destination more quickly. This achieves your goal, what you're looking to do, more faster, because there's no having to repeat, there are no U-turns, there are no forgetting things. Stop your car when you arrive at your destination and wait a few seconds turn the ignition off, wait a few seconds. What do? No, we turn the ignition off, pull the handbrake on, grab our bag, opening the door with our elbow, our right foot's already on the floor, we're dragging our left foot out of the car. Our head, where is that? It's already in the shop, or in the office, or wherever we're going to. And before we know it, we are, with these bodies, in the shop, in the office, or wherever we're going to. But the important thing, our wallet, our money, or our file, or whatever it was we were supposed to take with us, we left in the car. And at the same time, we dropped the keys down the drain, and we now can't get into the car having returned to it. And the day goes horribly wrong. But if we simply do one thing at a time, and then enjoy a breath in, turn off the ignition, breathe in, put the handbrake on, breathe in. It may sound silly to you, slowing down like that, but just try it. It's amazing what difference it makes. I started doing that, and I never stopped doing that, because it made my life so much more efficient. That simple process of getting out of the car. And I was in a line of work at the time where I was getting in and out of the car quite a lot, so the temptation was to hurry. But we all know, when you hurry, you don't necessarily get things done quickly or efficiently. And that is all this Noble Eightfold Path is. We're very fortunate. It applies to everybody. You don't have to be Buddhist, you don't have to be religious. You can pick it up and you can use it. It may be that you don't want to. You don't want to try meditation. You don't want to keep sila or moral precepts. Well, that's okay. But really, that isn't understanding the Four Noble Truths, is it? Because only through ignorance of the Four Noble Truths, that there is suffering and a cause of suffering, can you possibly have that view, wrong view, that keeping moral precepts and meditation will not work for you. That would be wrong view, because it will work for everyone. And the Four Noble Truths are just that, truths. We cannot argue that there is suffering. However wonderful your life is, your relationship or your marriage is, this will all come to an end. Even if it's perfect until the day you die, you will die. We get old, we get sick, we die. But we can really experience this life to the full and enjoy it to the full and be happy throughout this lifetime. And therefore all the people around us we know can be happy too by these simple instructions we were left. So that will be enough, I think, to say on the Eightfold Path today. If it's useful, use it. If it's not, then don't. Bhavatu sabba mangalam ragantu sabba devata sabba bhutanyupavena sadasoti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalam ragantu sabba devata Sabba Dhammanuppavena sada soti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalam ragantu sabba devata. Sabba sangha nupavena sada soti bhavantu te.